The first thing Kalen Mercer noticed that Christmas morning was the sound of glass breaking behind him in the parking lot of the luxury hotel. The second thing he noticed was the woman in the silver coat standing barefoot on the pavement, one heel snapped in half, mascara running down her cheeks while snowmelt soaked the edges of her expensive dress. People walked past her pretending not to stare, but everyone knew exactly who she was. Her face had been on magazine covers all year. Billionaire tech CEO. Ruthless investor. The woman employees called the Ice Queen behind closed doors. Yet there she stood trembling in daylight, drunk enough to barely stay upright, staring at the shattered champagne bottle beside her like her entire world had collapsed with it. And when she looked at Kalen, the exhausted single father carrying leftover pastries from his hotel shift, she laughed bitterly and challenged him with slurred words that would change both their lives forever. She told him no man had ever stayed when things became difficult. She told him everyone only wanted something from her. Then she pointed toward the snow-covered streets and dared him to walk her home through the city if he thought kindness was real. Before this emotional Christmas story begins, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Lifeline Vibes, if you still believe kindness and second chances can change someone's life. Stories like this remind us that even strangers can become miracles for each other. The city was glowing with Christmas decorations, but Kalen Reeves barely noticed them anymore. For the past 3 years, life had been survival. Every morning started before sunrise. Every night ended with aching feet and unpaid bills spread across his kitchen table. He worked double shifts at the Grand Brixton Hotel downtown, carrying luggage, cleaning spills, calming angry guests, and smiling through humiliation because his 7-year-old daughter depended on him. Since his wife died in a car accident 2 winters earlier, Kalen had become mother and father at once. There were days he skipped meals so his daughter Ivy could have warm food. Days he slept only 3 hours before returning to work. Yet no matter how exhausted he became, he still walked Ivy to school every morning holding her tiny mittened hand like it was the only thing anchoring him to the world. Christmas was especially painful. Ivy still hung her mother's old ornaments on the tiny apartment tree and whispered wishes she knew would never come true. Kalen tried to make the season magical anyway, even when the refrigerator was nearly empty and overdue notices covered the counter. That morning he had promised Ivy he would return early enough to watch Christmas movies together. He had even saved enough tips to buy her a second-hand bicycle hidden beneath a blanket in the closet. But life had another plan waiting outside the hotel. The woman standing in the snow was named Serafina Vale, founder of a billion-dollar software empire that dominated headlines. She was powerful, brilliant, feared, and unbelievably alone. Rumors followed her everywhere. Employees claimed she fired people without emotion. Investors said she trusted no one. Tabloids constantly photographed her entering penthouses alone. To the world, she looked untouchable. But Kalen saw something else the moment she nearly slipped on the icy pavement trying to walk away from the broken bottle. He saw someone falling apart. Hotel security hesitated nearby, unsure whether to intervene. No one wanted trouble with a woman like Serafina Vale. She laughed again when she noticed them watching. It wasn't happy laughter. It sounded shattered, hollow, exhausted. Then her eyes locked onto Kalen. He should have kept walking. He knew that later. Instead, he stepped toward her and quietly offered his coat. She stared at him like he had spoken another language. Then came the challenge. She asked if he was one of those people who pretended to care during Christmas because it made them feel noble. She asked if he expected money, fame, gratitude. When he shook his head, she pointed toward the distant skyline where luxury apartments overlooked the frozen river. Her driver had abandoned her after an argument. Her phone battery was dead. She refused to call anyone else. If he truly believed in kindness, she said, he could walk her home himself. Kalen should have refused. His daughter was waiting. His shift had already ended late. Snow clouds thickened overhead. But something in Serafina's face reminded him of the nights he sat awake after his wife died, staring into darkness because grief felt too heavy to survive alone. So he nodded. The walk through downtown became stranger with every block. Serafina stumbled often, muttering bitter jokes about rich people and fake happiness. Christmas music echoed from stores while families carried shopping bags past them. Children laughed near an ice skating rink. Yet beside Kalen, the powerful CEO looked utterly lost. At one point she stopped under golden holiday lights and asked him why he wasn't trying to impress her. Most men did. Investors did. Employees did. Everyone wanted access to her money or influence. Kalen answered honestly. He said he was too tired to pretend to be someone else anymore. For the first time, she became quiet. As snow began falling harder, they passed a toy store window filled with moving trains and glowing reindeer. Serafina suddenly froze. Her expression changed completely. She stared at a little stuffed rabbit displayed near the glass, and her eyes filled with tears she clearly hated showing. Slowly, painfully, she admitted she used to collect rabbits as a child before foster homes and poverty hardened her into someone unrecognizable. Christmas had once mattered to her too. Kalen listened without judgment. That simple silence began breaking walls inside her. Halfway through the journey, Serafina nearly collapsed from the cold. Without hesitation, Kalen guided her into a small neighborhood diner glowing warmly against the storm. The waitress recognized him immediately and brought hot coffee without asking because Kalen often visited after late shifts. Serafina sat across from him shivering while steam rose between them. She watched him count crumpled bills before ordering the cheapest soup on the menu. That was the moment she realized he truly didn't know who she was beyond headlines. Then she noticed the tiny pink backpack sitting beside his chair. Kalen explained he still carried Ivy's forgotten school bag because he planned to go directly home after work. Inside the bag were crayons, unfinished homework, and a handmade Christmas card addressed to Daddy. Serafina quietly opened the card after he allowed her to. The crooked handwriting inside thanked him for trying so hard every day. Something inside Serafina cracked completely after reading those words. Because no one had thanked her in years. Not sincerely. Not without wanting something back. The storm worsened outside, turning streets white with snow. Kalen realized public transportation had stopped running. Serafina's penthouse was still miles away. He offered to help her find a hotel room instead, but she surprised him by refusing. She looked almost frightened at the idea of being alone that night. Then came the unexpected request. She asked if she could stay with him instead. Kalen immediately hesitated. Bringing a stranger home to his daughter felt irresponsible. Yet something in Serafina's exhausted face reminded him she was hanging by a thread emotionally. After a long silence, he agreed under one condition: no business talk, no arrogance, no pretending to be someone she wasn't. For the first time all day, Serafina smiled genuinely. Kalen's apartment building stood in a worn neighborhood far from the glamorous districts she knew. The elevator barely worked. The hallway smelled like old paint and radiator heat. Yet when Ivy opened the apartment door in fuzzy socks and rushed into her father's arms, the tiny home suddenly felt warmer than any mansion Serafina had ever owned. Ivy instantly noticed the sad woman beside him. Children always noticed everything. Instead of fear, Ivy simply asked if Serafina needed hot chocolate. That innocent kindness nearly destroyed her. Throughout the evening, something miraculous unfolded inside the cramped apartment. Ivy proudly showed Serafina homemade paper snowflakes taped to the walls. Kalen cooked grilled cheese sandwiches while apologizing for their simplicity. Old Christmas movies played softly in the background. Slowly, the billionaire CEO stopped acting like a powerful executive and started acting like someone remembering how to breathe again. For the first time in years, she laughed naturally when Ivy beat her at a board game. For the first time in years, someone saw her without caring about wealth. Later that night, while Ivy slept on the couch beside the glowing tree, Serafina quietly admitted the truth about why she had been drunk. Earlier that morning, her board of directors had celebrated another record-breaking financial year. Everyone toasted her success. Yet not one person asked if she was happy. After the party ended, she returned to her empty penthouse and realized she had nobody to spend Christmas with. Not family. Not friends. Nobody. She had built an empire so massive it swallowed her entire life. Kalen listened from the kitchen doorway while snow drifted softly outside the windows. Then he told her something she would never forget. He said surviving life was not the same as living it. The words hit harder than any business failure ever had. The next morning sunlight poured into the apartment while Ivy excitedly opened presents around the tiny tree. Serafina watched quietly from the couch holding a cup of coffee. When Ivy unwrapped the old second-hand bicycle, her scream of joy filled every corner of the apartment. Kalen tried hiding tears, embarrassed by how emotional he became. But Serafina saw everything. She saw sacrifice. Love. Exhaustion. Strength. She saw a man who had almost nothing yet still gave everything he had. And for the first time in her life, she envied someone poorer than her. Hours later, when the snow finally cleared, a line of black luxury vehicles suddenly appeared outside the apartment building. Serafina's security team and assistants had finally located her. The tiny street buzzed with confusion as sharply dressed executives hurried through the snow searching for their missing CEO. The spell of the night shattered instantly. Serafina stood silently near the doorway while reality returned around her like cold water. Her assistant apologized frantically. Meetings waited. Investors demanded updates. The world needed Serafina Vale again. But before leaving, she turned back toward Kalen and Ivy. Then she did something nobody expected. She removed the diamond watch from her wrist and placed it quietly on the kitchen table. Kalen immediately refused, assuming it was payment. But Serafina shook her head. She explained the watch was the first thing she bought after becoming rich, yet it had never made her feel valuable. She wanted Ivy to sell it one day for college if needed. Kalen still refused. So instead, Serafina made another promise. One that would transform all their lives. Over the following months, she secretly arranged scholarships for children of hotel workers. She funded daycare support for single parents employed in her company. She invested millions into grief counseling programs after learning about Kalen's loss. Yet the biggest change wasn't public at all. It was personal. Serafina kept returning to the small apartment for dinner. At first it happened once a month. Then weekly. Eventually Ivy started calling her Miss Sarah and saving her a seat during movie nights. The woman once feared across boardrooms slowly became softer, warmer, human again. She learned how to bake terrible cookies with Ivy. She learned how to sit quietly without checking stock prices. She learned that loneliness disappears slowly when people stop pretending to be invincible. And Kalen changed too. For the first time since his wife died, he stopped feeling like life was only pain and responsibility. Someone finally saw how hard he fought every day. Someone finally stayed. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs hope today. Your support helps Lifeline Vibes continue bringing emotional stories that remind people goodness still exists in this world.